Hi, I'm Brian Icenhower, and we're here to talk to you a little bit about how to hire a member of your real estate team or an administrative support staff or a buyer's agent when you're busy, which is often the case. Certainly, that's when most real estate agents know that they need to make a hire, when they're getting overloaded to the point where they're losing some personal time and working late nights and working too much on the weekends, and they actually start to let a large portion of their customer service drop when things get really busy. So that's the time they have the most confidence and they're most aware of the need that they need to bring somebody on to help them grow their business and provide the same level of customer service to their clients. Yet it's the time they have the least free time to be able to make a good hire that they don't pay for later. So we've got a couple of leaders that have made a lot of those hires over the past in the real estate industry that I'm sitting with, Jamie and Mark, and they actually have quite a bit of experience in practicing some of the principles that we teach so that they can make an effective hire during a busy season or a busy time in the real estate market and still make a good hire at the same time without completely drowning their business. So guys, why don't we talk about some of the keys that you guys have implemented when you're too busy to hire but you need to anyway?
So one of the things is time blocking interviews. You've got to set up time. You know you need to, and as painful as it is, it's like everything else you have to do. You just have to block time and make sure you've got that time to do it. Schedule them out, like listing appointments or whatever it is. You have a spot in your calendar and you make it happen.
So you time block that spot out in your calendar that you have an interview, even before you have an interview set there. So you just make the time and you protect it and then try to fill it.
Yes,
That's
absolutely.
great. Excellent. The other thing I know when we talk about making multiple interviews, the name of the game is multiple interviews. But I see more often than not, people are in such dire need of help and there's such panic when they're busy that they will actually rush and have multiple interviews with the same candidate to more or less push them through the process quickly so that they can hurry up and get that person hired, as opposed to using the interview times to meet multiple new candidates for the same job. Jamie, I know that you had practiced a little bit of a discipline on that where you set some goals for yourself.
Right.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
I had a goal to have a certain amount of first-time interviews in a week. So each week I would have 2 new interviewees. And then I had a deadline as to when I needed to hire somebody. So I would get those interviews in, first-time interviews up, and then didn't even schedule amount of interviews. It was the first-time interview that became important.
Right, and your staff, you've got 6 or 7 people working for you and you were down a person. Going into a very busy spring season in real estate, where you're going to be closing double the amount of transactions you were before. So very hard for your administrative staff to keep up with that. So you set a goal to meet 2 new people per week.
Right.
So that way you would assure yourself of meeting a lot of people, and then you would pick a specific end date where you had to have a person hired by too. So that would force you to hurry up and have a lot of interviews to find a good hire to get it done by then.
Yep.
I like that, and that forces it. One of the general rules that we put into place too that we always like to see people using is don't actually make the hire until you've generated enough candidates where you're deciding between a few people. You know that if you're deciding between multiple good candidates, you've done a good job drumming up enough talent where you're actually having a decision. Or if you've got one person that you've been stuck with the whole time that you love, you may be getting a little biased and you may not even know it. You're not looking at this objectively. And I think that at that point, that's where it gets dangerous, because nothing is as costly as a bad hire for time and money, I think we've seen. And we talk about the different ways we filter through these applicants so that it isn't so time consuming when we're meeting all these people too. How do we filter through the masses that want to work for you guys so that we don't take all our time doing it?
I always have phone interviews, a pre-screening interview. We talk to them on the phone. You have your resume right in front of you with the phone interview so that you can see what their credentials are. Also see how they present on the phone, and you can kind of weed some out.
How long
that
is
way.
one of those phone calls, screening interview?
No more than 10 minutes, probably 7 minutes.
So you just talk to them for 7 or 10 minutes. You're looking at their behavioral assessment. You're looking at their resume and asking them some preset questions?
Yes,
So you have a list of preset questions you ask everybody?
I do. Yep.
Okay. And so what do you look for on that?
I just have them tell me about their work experience, a little bit of their education, some hobbies and habits that they have, just a couple of short things about themselves. Tell me about yourself, and usually can get enough about those people in that. 5 to 7 minutes.
And
I-
sometimes you can tell too how much they've prepared for that. If they just come in really cold and they don't have any idea what's going on, or even the basic type questions, maybe they're not the right kind of person that you want if they're not even going to spend a few minutes just doing some research and trying to figure out what it is you do or Keller Williams does or whatever it is.
Yeah.
If they're not going to spend that time doing any kind of research, maybe they're not quite the
So
right
you get a level of their preparation just in that phone number. You can also see how good they are with people when they're answering those questions, how good they are on the fly, if this is good. And depending on what position you're hiring for, I mean, those would be two very important things if you're going to be running customer service on my administration staff. I'd want to know you're pretty thorough, organized, and prepared, and that you're pretty good talking to my clients. So that would be pretty good. You can also, I think, if you do that online behavioral assessment, you'll have a score back where you can actually see if the way they're communicating with you on the phone is in alignment with their score. So you're more or less, in a very small way, validating their behavior to see if that behavior and how that'll interact with the position,
Yeah.
whether that profile is a match for the profile for that particular position you're hiring them for too as well. And you still haven't met with them. So you've got a DISC behavioral assessment you can do in there, some sort of behavioral assessment, a resume, phone screening interview, and I know you guys like to go on Facebook a lot too. You can go check them out on Facebook, see a little bit about them that way. You probably learn about family, friends, see how intelligent they are about what they're putting online publicly. Start looking for drama situations on there.
Yeah.
You can get a lot of red flags out of the way if you just take a look at that without ever even taking the time to meet with one of those people in your
Right.
time block.
And that doesn't take 10 minutes for a phone interview, a few minutes to go on Facebook and look some things up. I mean, none of this takes very much time at all. It
Yeah.
saves you a lot of time later when you're, you don't have to go meet somebody and sit down and talk to them and all that. You do it fast and you can move on.
And I think the key here, I want to wrap this up, but I think the key comment that we talked about is we talk about having to try to do something to get business every single day, right? We call that lead generation, whether that's farming a neighborhood or contacting people in your database or prospecting for sale by owners or expired listings. Whatever you do to generate business, that's fine. You almost have to treat this as lead generation, holding these interviews.
Right.
2 appointments per day until it gets done, because no one likes to interview. No one likes to go through all this time wasting, but you have to kind of force it until it's done. So this almost kind of gets put into your lead generation, Gary, because if you're overloaded with work, there's no way you're growing any other way until you get some help at that point in time. So
And that's the worst time to then start this process, okay, let me now start looking for resumes. Let me now start talking to people who might know somebody who knows somebody, is when you're super busy.
Yeah.
You do that stuff so you have a whole list of people that you can now start poking at, maybe in more depth at that point. Once you're really busy and you need that help, you've already got a pipeline.
Right. So yeah, and that's why waiting till you're not busy, conversely, can be negative too, because now you don't have much business, you don't have much confidence, and you don't wonder why you can pay somebody. So that's a great time to be meeting people. Either time will work, but there's pros and cons of hiring when you're busy and when you're not as well. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for all your help here today and sharing those tips and secrets with you and with everybody out there. And keep on with the hiring.